Hey there, yarn besties. Jeff from Hobbii here, and you are listening to Skein and Tell, the podcast that unravels it all. In today's episode, we are getting twisted, literally. Ever had a yarn that just wouldn't behave? Or maybe you're crocheting away and it's splitting, it's snagging, it's somehow unraveling backwards. Well, plot twist. It might not be you. It might be your yarn's twist. Today, we are diving into the fascinating world of the Z twist versus the S twist, and what that means, why it matters, and how it affects your experience as a crocheter or knitter. Yes, we are going full on yarn CSI on this one. Okay, what is a yarn twist? Let's start at the spindle. So when yarn is spun, fibers are twisted together to give them, strength, to give them structure. This twist can go into two directions, right? To the right and to the left. Now, the Z twist is twisted to the right. It's like the central line in the letter Z. Okay, so imagine the letter Z and that line in the middle, it's leaning towards the right. That is a Z twisted yarn. So when you look at a strand, if it's leaning towards the right, that's a Z twist. Now the S twist, that's twisted to the left. Okay, so it's the diagonal line in the letter S. It's not random. It is very intentional. So the direction of the twist influences super much in how the yarn actually behaves when you work with it. So here's the kicker. Most commercial yarn is spun with an S twist. And that is absolutely great for knitters. Because when you knit, the movement of your needles, it actually tends to reinforce the S twist. It tightens the S twist. But when you crochet, especially if you're right-handed, your hook motion tends to untwist it. Which means that yarn that behaves beautifully for knitting can actually start to split, to fray, or to actually even go limp in crochet. Ugh, we hate that. Crocheters, if you've ever felt like a yarn was just, I don't know, man, it's splitty, it's it's not you, It actually might have been an S-twist yarn that's just rebelling against your hook. So you didn't lose that yarn game, it was just pretty much rigged from the start. What about the Z-twist yarn? The Z-twist yarn is spun, obviously, in the opposite direction. And when a right-handed crocheter uses it, it reinforces the twist, not unravels it. Now, the Z-twist yarns are rare, but they do exist. Chef's kiss for crochet. And bestie, I have to confess, this whole episode was spun, pun intended of course, from something extra special that we've been working on behind the scenes. And I'm talking about our dreamy new merino Z-twist yarn, created in collaboration with the one, the only Bella Coco. Now, it is soft, it is bouncy, and obviously the kicker, it is designed with crochet in mind. And I mean, that is already in itself incredible. It's launching on July 31st. It is twisted the other way, as we call it at the office, the other way around. It's twisted in a Z twist. So your stitches will absolutely, your stitches are going to dance, they're going to sing, they're not going to split anymore. And because I know my fellow fiber bestie nerds love the why just as much as the what, I really wanted to dive very deep into the twisty tale of how yarn gets its spin and why it actually really matters. It matters way more than we think. So yeah, let's just deep dive into it. we interrupt this episode for a special segment that explores the history of yarn. Yes, that is correct. It is the archaeology of yarn. Oh my god. Honestly, why do I keep doing this voice at this point? But it is still brought to you by our special correspondent, Yarn Deanna Jones. Alright, so once again, this is Yarn Deanna Jones. And yeah, today we are not hunting for golden idols or ancient artifacts, but we are chasing the papery threads of history through forests, temples, and fiber factories. That's right. We are unraveling the legacy of one of the world's strangest but most sustainable yarns, paper yarn. Now let's go back. 17th century Japan. Picture this, okay? Monks meditating, samurai training, and women spinning shifu, a traditional textile made from paper. Yeah, you heard that right. Wearable paper. I mean, the process, incredibly delicate. Artisans would take sheets of handmade washi paper, cut them into strips, twist them into threads, and weave or knit them into garments. Now, despite being made literally from paper, these fibers were prized for their strength, their breathability, and eventually their thermal properties. I mean, they're cool in the summer, they're cozy in the winter, and who knew that cellulose could be so seasonal, So shifu wasn't just practical, but it was also beautiful. It was often combined with silk, combined with cotton. It was used for everything, from obi belts to kimono linings. And today, you can still find weavers in Japan continuing this tradition, making shifu for art books, textiles, and yes, obviously, of course, for experimental fashion. Now, fast forward to the 18th century in Europe, where paper made its debut in a more decorative form. Think fancy trims and braids and ornamental flourishes on everything from curtains to military uniforms. Now, these early uses were quite flashy and not very functional. But then comes the late 19th century. Enter Germany. As the Industrial Revolution revved up, so did the yarn innovation. And I mean, we've known this. We've covered this so much in so many Yarn Deanna Jones segments. So German engineers developed the first machines to mass produce paper yarn, rolling and twisting it into threads strong enough to be woven. During the First World War and the Second World War, paper yarn made its way into emergency textiles, into uniforms, when other fibers were scarce. So insert dramatic music here. The scene where Yarn Deanna Jones dashes through a Berlin textile factory, dodging spinning bobbins of wartime paper thread. Today, paper yarn is having a bit of a renaissance. And it's not just about the aesthetics. It's also about sustainability, because we know that modern paper yarns are often made from recycled materials. They're made from post-consumer paper, they're made from bamboo pulp blend, and they're made from other blends like blending paper with hemp and with linen. So you will see it in woven totes, in summer hats, in placemats, even knit tops with a crunchy, cool linen-like feel. It's biodegradable, it's plant-based, of course, and obviously surprisingly durable. So yeah, if you are, wondering, well, how am I going to wash it? Well, just a gentle cycle, that's all it takes. So would Yarn Deanna wear it, Absolutely. Paper yarn, it is definitely one of those rare fibers that fuses innovation with tradition. and it is beautifully eco-conscious. So it's kind of like a testament to how cultures across time have turned everyday materials into extraordinary textiles. So next time you crinkle open a skein of paper yarn, remember you are holding centuries of ingenuity in your hands. And maybe, just maybe, a tiny piece of ancient scroll in there somewhere too. So let's look a little bit into how yarn actually gets the twist, Fiber Factory Edition. So picture this. You are in a spinning mill, and it's loud, and it's greasy, or a little greasy. And somewhere in the background, there's a bale of wool just waiting to glow up. Now, once the raw fiber has been cleaned in the process called scouring, it goes through a few key steps before it becomes, the yarn we love to pet. So we actually have a whole episode on how wool is made. So do have a listen to episode 3 if you'd like to hear the entire process from sheep to skein. But, let's sum up the process. After scouring, fibers are aligned and they're separated in a process called carding. It's like brushing out, tangled hair after a nap. And then in combing, the next process, the shorter fibers are removed and the rest is basically smoothed into long, even strands called rovings. These basically look like giant, fluffy ropes of fiber. And now comes the twisty part. These rovings are fed into high-speed industrial spinning machines. Now, these machines pull and twist the fibers simultaneously, locking the fibers together into a stable strand of yarn. And here's the magic. The direction of the twist, like we just talked about, determines the yarn's hand feel and how it behaves when it's worked. And the amount of twist determines the yarn's durability, bounciness and softness, and also how much it will split or how much it will hold together also when you're crafting. The S twist versus the Z twist, a great, direction debate if you want. So once again, the S twist, twisted to the left. Most commercial yarn is twisted in an S twist because it works well, like I said, with knitting. And then the Z twist, it is twisted to the right, like the bar in the letter Z. And it works better for crocheters, especially the right-handed ones, because the hook movement can unintentionally basically twist an S-twist yarn. So a Z-twist yarn resists that unraveling. And Z-twists yarns are, once again, I cannot stress enough how actually sadly rare these are. And obviously we know that because knitting dominates the market. Why is that? Well, probably because machines can replicate knitting whilst crocheters or crochet cannot be replicated in a machine. So obviously it makes more sense for the factories to produce an S-twist yarn instead of a Z-twist. I mean, when a crochet-specific yarn appears, like the Bella Coco Merino and the Bella Coco Merino print, it is honestly a very big deal. So we've checked the direction. Let's talk about the magic of the amount of twist we apply to the yarn. We have obviously a low twist and a high twist. So a low twist, also called a shallow angle, it is basically super soft. It's, lofty. It's great for garments and for cozy projects, but it can split easily. However, it is ideal for drapey shawls, for cowls, and for everything that needs to have a beautiful drape and that flowy vibe. So think low twist, fluffy bread. And then we have a high twist, also called a sharp angle. A high twist is tight, it's, sleek, snappy, it's super, super durable, and it holds up tension beautifully. It is amazing for stitch definition. So it's great for, making cable projects or textured projects where you really need to see the stitches. And I don't know, think about a high twist as a noodle, a spaghetti. It's Weird Yarn Monday. Today we're rolling out a yarn that's here to make headlines, literally. Say hello to newspaper yarn. Yeah, you heard me right. That's right, bestie. Today's Weird Yarn Monday fiber used to deliver the weather, obituaries, and your horoscope, but now is here to become your next crochet coaster. What a plot twist. Can you even believe it, though, that there's such a thing called newspaper yarn? Because when I first found out about it, I was like, interesting. Because it's very specific. I mean, yeah, recycled paper yarn, okay, I get it. But recycled newspaper, that's so niche. So how does one make yarn out of newsprint? Well, it starts with shredded recycled paper, preferably, of course, newspaper, and they prefer the uncoated kind. That's why newspaper works so well. And this is also because making it out of magazines is a little bit more tricky because the glossy pages, they're a little bit too slick for spinning. So that's why the uncoated kind, like the newspaper kind, they're just like so good for this. Anyway, they shred those bad news up, they wet it so that they turn it into this kind of pulpy, gooey mix that actually gets pressed down, then gets dried into these long, thin strips. And then those strips are spun into thread-like filaments. Those filaments are then twisted, and it's just like traditional yarn, but with a lot more crinkle. And the result? Well, a slightly stiff, but surprisingly strong matte finish yarn that feels like Papercraft had a baby with basket weave. And what I'm saying is, please don't make a baby blanket out of the Sunday Times. Don't do that. No. But I do kind of love the idea of turning yesterday's headlines into tomorrow's coasters, I like the sound of that. Making something out of newspaper yarn may sound like a craft there, but I think, and maybe it's just a little positive bestie in me speaking out loud here, but I actually think that it is a surprisingly versatile material if you have, obviously, the right expectations. I think that it's a great yarn for sturdy sculptural projects like baskets. I think that you can also pair it with, other thick yarns like a ribbon. And yeah, I mean, there you go. Thick hook, and you got yourself a very beautiful rustic container for fruit or for yarn. Plus, it rattles when you dig through it, like so that's kind of cute. The texture and the stiffness, I think it will make a very beautiful killer visual impact in wall art. And you can think mixed media weaving, oversized fringe and macrame style decor. You can even let a little snippets of text peeking through for very niche messaging, like crochet is love, page 6. So making yourself some textile art, that could be kind of fun, right? Then you can, of course, also make, notebook covers and journaling accessories. So you can make a really, really nice bookmark as well. Why not? You can wrap it, you can stitch it, you can glue it. I mean, it's a great way to make these handmade journal covers, And, of course, bracelets, necklaces, even earrings. Just keep them away from rain because crafty warnings, it is not washable, so stick to decorative or dry used items. It has zero stretch and it can break if you pull too hard on it. But it is surprisingly durable when you work with it, slowly and with love. And yes, you might not be crocheting cozy socks out of the New York Times, but you can turn, yesterday's headlines into tomorrow's treasures. Trash to treasure? Sure. Bestie, that is indeed fiber magic. So, I mean, yeah, let's write a funky coaster pattern for it. I'm ready for it. I'm totally down. Ready when you are. Next week, yarn made from jellyfish. Probably not FDA approved, but still squishy. I'm just kidding. Or am I? What is the ideal twist for crochet? Like I have mentioned 1,000 times before, it's obviously a high twist, so that it helps prevent the yarn from going fuzzy or splitting mid-stitch. And the Z twist, because it then stays intact while crocheting rather than, unraveling. So when you get both, it is definitely chef's kiss. Your stitches are going to be super crisp, they're going to be smooth, and the yarn will flow like a dream. And I mean, we all know that crochet is a bit more spirited, with all of the yarn overs and the pull throughs, and I feel like all of those twisty emotions, I mean, they can really, really benefit from a higher twist and a Z twist, so that the whole project actually stays intact and you don't have to fight against the clock, right? And I mean, identifying an S twist versus a Z twist, baby, I got a really, really good trick for you. Unless you bought a yarn from somewhere that is specifically stated this is a Z twist yarn, then, well, most probably it's an S twist. And yeah, I feel like when the stars align and then you find that beautiful high twist and Z twist yarn, if you're a crocheter, then wow, you are lucky. And that's why I actually think that it is definitely a huge thing for us. It's a huge thing for us to now have finally a yarn that is specifically designed for crocheters. I feel like it is such a big game changer. So do try it out. Try it out because you will see what I mean. It's incredible. It's insane. So, let's play detective, okay? If you do have yarn near you, take a single strand or look at the strand of yarn and then hold it up vertically and look at the lines in the ply. Are they going to the left or to the right? Because if it's twisted top left to bottom right, like the letter S, the diagonal in the letter S, then it's an S twist. But if they go from top right to bottom left, then it's a Z twist. It's kind of like the diagonal in the letter Z from zebra. Zebra and a snake. Is it a snake yarn or is it a zebra yarn? You can also, try the twist test. So crochet a few stitches and you see if the yarn splits, frays, or it almost looks like it's untwisting. And if it falls apart, then it's likely the wrong twist for your hook style. And that is, yeah, it is what it is, right? But bestie, the twist doesn't define you. It might explain a lot why certain yarns are just, they're not the vibe, right? So if you've ever abandoned a skein, or if you got pissed off that, oh my god, this yarn is splitting, it's so annoying, and this yarn is not good quality, and this yarn is this and that, well, it's actually not it doesn't determine the quality of the yarn itself. It doesn't determine your skills. It's just not the right yarn. So next time you're choosing yarn, do think beyond color and fiber contents. Peek at the ply, peek at the twist, pat it a little bit, give it a little spin test, spin it around, and yeah, if a yarn feels like butter but never splits, you may have found your, twist soulmate. But that's not to say, I don't want to scare you off, okay? Don't be scared. Don't be scared. For centuries, us crocheters have been crocheting with with yarns that have the S twist. So that's also fine. That's also totally fine. But we definitely don't think about the twist of a yarn. We think about color, we think about weight, and that's pretty much it, right? So, bestie, I mean, that's the twist on twists. You know, whether you're working with a Z or an S, high or low twist, remember that your yarn should work with you, not against you. And if a yarn makes you feel like you're wrestling a fiber snake, then put it down. It's not you, it's a twist. Yeah, I mean, share this episode with your fiber fam. Tag me in your favorite Z twist yarns. And until next time, keep your yarn spun right, your hook steady, and your heart soft. Remember, hashtag Skein and Tell, hashtag Hobbii podcast, or my email is jaya@hobbii.com. All the info is in the description of this episode. And remember, we have a poll running, so answer it. Have you ever tried a Z twist yarn before? And leave a comment what you think about it on this episode. All right. Love you, bestie. Bye.